Good morning, children. Today we are going to see the second part of our lesson 2, which is the compounds and the mixtures portion. Already we have seen what is an element. Now, in this lesson, we are going to see the compounds and what is the mixtures. Okay, first one, what is a molecule? Molecule is nothing but when two or more atoms combine. Now, if what is the atoms? The atoms of the same element or of different elements. Yes, molecules are nothing but two or more atoms of same element or different elements. You have the example here. One is the oxygen and another one is a carbon dioxide. In the oxygen molecule, we find the two atoms of oxygen are same, that is, of the same element. The two atoms of oxygen element will form the oxygen molecule. Similarly, coming to the carbon dioxide, there you have one carbon atom and you have two oxygen atoms. So there are two types of elements here. That is two elements involved. One is carbon, one is oxygen. Even this will form a molecule. Okay, and then they exhibit all the properties of the elements and can exist independently. These molecules can exist independently and they exhibit all the properties of these elements. So what is a molecule? Molecule is nothing but two or more atoms combined, first point, and these two atoms can be of the same element or of different elements. Okay, if then example, we have oxygen and water, and these molecules can exist independently, and then they exhibit all the properties of the elements. Okay, now we are going to see the types of molecules. When the molecule is of the same element and then molecule of a compound. Okay, when the atoms are of the same element, then they form the molecule of an element. Yes, they form that first type. If they are of different elements, if the atoms are of different elements, then they form the molecule of a compound, then it is called a compound. Okay, so this is the two types which we saw now. That is, if the atoms are of the same element, then they are called as molecule of an element. Then if the atoms are of different elements, then it is called the molecule of a compound, or you can say simply compound. That is compound. That is example, we have water, the same carbon dioxide. That is two or more atoms of different elements. Two or more atoms of different elements combine in a fixed proportion. In a fixed proportion. Say you take a simple example of our sambar. Sambar, how will your mother make sambar? She will take dal, she will take vegetables, she will take powder, pepper powder, then sambar powder, salt, tamarind pulp, everything. She will take all these small elements. These are all elements, right? Your dal is an element, your pepper powder is an element, sambar powder is an element. All she will take and she will put in a fixed proportion, and then she will make your sambar. Similarly, oxygen and hydrogen will combine in a fixed proportion to form a compound called water. Similarly, one atom carbon and two atoms of oxygen will combine together form the carbon dioxide. Yes, children. What are the characteristics of compounds? That is, two or more atoms of different elements. That is the first point. The atoms are of different elements and they combine chemically, that is using chemical methods, but they combine in a fixed proportion. Then the properties of the compounds are different from that of their constituent elements. Yes, take the example of sambar. Okay, the properties of the elements. What are the elements? The dal, the vegetables, the powders, everything. When they combine, they will be tasting differently. Yes, the taste is different in the form of the sambar, whereas the taste of the powder, say the pepper powder, is different when you take it individually. So that is what we are telling. The properties of the compounds are different from that of their constituent elements. And then they have their own physical and chemical properties. Yes, the color, physical means color, size, everything, and chemical properties also. So in the same example of the sambar, we can say the sambar color you can say light orangish color or yellow color will be different from that of the individual elements like your sambar powder, etc. Then can be separated into individual components by chemical methods. This is one thing we have to take into consideration. They can be separated into individual components by chemical methods. Okay, so what are the characteristics of the compounds? That is, two or more atoms of different elements combined together in fixed proportion. In fixed proportion, then the properties of the compounds are different from that of their constituent elements, and then have their own physical and chemical properties. They can be separated into individual components but only by through chemical methods. Now, what are mixtures? Mixtures, that is the same thing, two or more substances are combined but without any chemical change. There is no chemical change undergoing, so it is easy to separate them. We can easily separate them. Look at the picture I have shown. Take this color balloons or colored toffees, anything, orange color, green color, yellow color. Then you can collect them according to the color wise, you can group them. That is where mixtures come into place. So mixtures, two or more substances combine, but they are not combining in chemical way. Example, add sugar in water, etc. Okay, now what are the characteristics of mixtures? Mixtures, that is, they don't have a property on its own. They don't have a individual property on its own. Then the components will retain their own property. Components will retain their own property. The components are not in a fixed ratio. They are not in a fixed ratio. Then they can be easily separated by physical means. You can easily separate the individual substances, and they are not pure substances. Yes. So first one, for a mixture, you can simply take an example of a salad, vegetable salad. What are you doing in a vegetable salad? You take carrot, you take all the different vegetables, and then you chop them, and then you put them in a bowl, and then you put salt, then you put pepper. So different kinds of vegetables you are using. What are the vegetables you will be using? Cucumber, carrot, cabbage, yes, all these vegetables, lettuce, and then you can use violet color cabbage, all this for colorful effect, all this, then spring onions, all this can be used for vegetable salad. Now when they cut and put it, what will happen? You can form a salad only after putting all together in a mixed form, that is, in a take a bowl and you will be mixing it together. Then that is an example for a mixture. Now think of that and we will understand the properties. So what is that? The salad will not have a property on its own. Yes, because each individual vegetable will have its own taste. Carrot will be bit sweeter, cabbage will not have any taste. So all this individual taste will be there. So the the vegetable salad will not have a taste on its own. Only this constituent taste will be there. then the components retain their property. The carrot will have its own color, its own taste. It will not be changing. Similarly for the cabbage will have its own color, its own taste. Similarly for cucumber, it will have its own color, its own taste. Then the components are not in fixed ratio. Yes, we are not going to have a fixed ratio. We cannot say 2 carrots, 2 cucumbers, 2 cabbages. No, we can put them in any ratio. Then they can be easily separated by physical means. We can remove them by hand picking itself. That is, we can separate carrot separately, onion separately, cucumber separately. We can remove it. So this physical separation is easier, and they are not pure substances. That is, they are not pure substances because they are having all these constituents together. Yes, so what are the characteristics of the mixtures? It has no property on its own. Then the components retain their own property. Then the components are not in fixed ratio. Then they can be easily separated by physical means, and they are not pure substances. Now, what are the differences between compounds and mixtures? Compounds made up of two or more. So, what are the differences? Compounds are made of two or more elements. Mixtures, they are made up of two or more substances. Then they exhibit new properties, compounds, whereas mixtures do not exhibit new properties. And then they do not compounds will not show the properties of the individual elements, whereas mixtures retain the properties of the individual elements. And then in the compounds, the ratio of the elements are in fixed proportion, whereas the mixture, the ratio of the components are not in a fixed proportion. And then compounds, they cannot be separated by physical means. Mixtures can be separated by physical means. And then compounds are pure substances, mixtures are impure substances. This differences between compounds and mixtures is very important. You should write this as a homework in your homework notebook and send it across. Okay, children, then we have the separation of mixtures. How we are going to separate the mixtures and why we want to separate the mixtures. Mixtures we are separating to find or take the useful components back, or we want to remove the unwanted materials, or we want to get the desirable substances. These are the three reasons why we are going to separate the mixtures. One is to you get the useful components. Second is to separate the unwanted materials. Third is used to get the desirable substances. Okay, now we'll go one by one. There are few methods of separating mixtures. We are going to see in the 6th standard about this 6 types of separating the methods, because there are many methods we will be learning in your higher studies or higher standards. As of now, we will be seeing about only these 6 methods. The first method is sieving. Sieving, that is nothing but your filter, that is we use as a tea filter at home, is it not? We will be what we will be using a sieve. Sieve is that small holes. Okay, the small holes, they are used to separate undesirable components, unwanted components. And based on the size of the components, it is based on the size of the components. The size of the components should be different. One should be smaller, that is the smaller component should pass through that small holes. It should go down. Then it is easy for us to separate. A simple example is to separate the stones from the sand. We put the sand inside the sieve, and when we do this filter, or when we do the sieving process, the sand will go down, the gravel or the stones will stay back. The sand will go down and the gravel will stay back. So this is called a sieving. That is, we are going to use a sieve. Sieve is a sheet with a small pores. Pores means holes. So through that holes, the sand will go down, only the stones will be remaining. So this is what sieving is. Now we are going to the next one. What is this? Magnetic separation. Magnetic separation, we are using a magnet to separate the components. Yes, we can use the magnet to separate the components. Why we are going to use the magnet? Because those elements will have some magnetic properties. That particular elements in the mixture will have magnetic properties, so we can use magnet to separate them. Example, we have the iron scrap from the garbage. You have lots of garbage put together. You can take the iron scrap, iron filings or iron pieces, that all can come through the magnet. If you take the magnet towards that area, all the iron present there will come and attach itself to the magnet, because iron has magnetic properties. That is, it will attract itself to the magnet. Yes, here I have shown an example of sulfur and iron filings. Sulfur and iron filings are mixed together, and the moment you take magnet near that particular mixture, all the iron filings will get stick to the magnet. Okay, children. Now going to the sublimation. Sublimation, it is the process in which the solid is directly converted to gas. Yes, then we can use this particular process only when the substance like camphor, iodine, or which can sublime here is which can convert itself into gaseous state directly, only if those type of substances are involved in the mixture. Yes, so for magnet separation, we have to see whether the substances has magnetic properties. Similarly, for sublimation, we have to check whether the substances have sublime properties. Then we can go for sublimation. What will we do? We'll take that mixture, keep it in a china dish or one porcelain dish, anything. Then you heat it from the bottom. Then you cover that particular mixture with a funnel, and then in the end of the funnel you put a cotton plug. Yes, so what will happen when you heat that particular mixture? The sublime substance like iodine or camphor will be converted into vapor directly, and the remaining substance is your pure substance. Yes, now coming to sedimentation. Sedimentation, the insoluble solid components. Insoluble, that is, it will not get soluble. Soluble means it will not mix in the solvent, it will not mix thoroughly in the liquid. Say, like example, stone will not stay in water as it is, it will not mix. But whereas the salt and the sugar, they will be mixed. You cannot find salt and sugar again, so they are insoluble. Like our stones are made to settle down at the bottom of the container. That is, at the bottom of the container they will be settling down. Yes, we can say example as washing the pulses with water. Yes, you take the example of rice. Before cooking rice, you will take the rice and you will be washing, or you will be soaking the rice for say half an hour. When you are soaking, you will pour water, yes, over the rice. Then what will happen? The rice will go down and the water will be only on the top. So the heavy weight of the solid, that is the rice, will be pulling it to the bottom, or it will make the rice settle down at the bottom of the container. Only the water will be there, because liquid is light in weight. So the liquid will be the up and the solid will be down. Though you can filter it, or you can pour out the liquid separately and take the rice separately. So, example for sedimentation, you can take the pulses washing with water. Then decantation. The moment the sedimentation is done, the upper layer of the liquid is poured out. That is, you are pouring into a separate container without disturbing the sediment. So this is called decantation. Yes, decantation. So example, separation of sand and water. This you can do at home and see the small activity. Take one small bowl of water, and in that bowl of water you put some sand, stones, etc. Allow it to sediment. Sediment means settle down at the bottom of the container. You can allow it, say after half an hour. You can go and see the liquid. The liquid would be clear and it will be on the top. You can pour that clear liquid into another container without disturbing the sediment. That is, you have to be very careful. You should not mix again. You have to only pour the water alone. So the solids, that is the sand and the stones, would be there remaining in one beaker, and the clear water is taken in the other beaker. Filtration, you would have seen this filtration, how we are going to filter tea. Yes, we have a small filter, and when you pour tea, the tea leaves or the tea powder will be sitting in the filter itself, whereas the liquid will pass through the filter. So the filter is used to separate the insoluble solid. Insoluble because the tea powder is insoluble, and then only the liquid will come out. Or you can say the lemon juice also. Lemon juice, when you take the make lemon juice, there will be seeds. Yes, the seeds are the insoluble solid particles, and the lemon juice, that is the liquid. How will we do the filtering? The same, you can use the same filter to filter the liquid. Yes, evaporation. Evaporation, the liquid is directly converted to the gaseous form, and in that case we have this salt water in the oceans and the seas. The sun will act upon the water, and then it will keep on evaporating the water. Finally you will find the salt. Why? Because all the salt from the rivers are uh, combined or collected in the oceans and the seas. So the liquid component evaporates and the salt is left behind. Liquid means the water component is evaporated and only the salt is left behind. So evaporation, we have this example as the salt from the seawater. Okay children, now we have to write down the differences between the compounds and the mixtures, and the definitions or the separation methods of mixtures. All these titles: sieving, sedimentation, um, then decantation, then filtration and evaporation. All these 6 topics you have to write, and you have to give the example. Yes children, this will be your homework. First one, you have to write the differences between the mixtures and compounds, and then you have to write down the definitions for or the meaning of all these separation processes with examples. Thank you children.